Hey, what's up, guys? How's everyone doing out there? Okay, so before I get into the actual review for this week's chapter, I want to talk about how much of an idiot I've been over the past few weeks of not doing basically any research or doing any digging whatsoever, especially since it would have been so easy for me to find the answer to this. Alright, so back in chapter 124 for my review of that video, someone actually commented on that video saying that the person or the robot that showed up at the end of the chapter was actually Master Zenolith. And when I read that comment for the first time, I was actually at work. So, it kind of slipped my mind afterwards, but when I read it for the first time, I was like, Master Zenolith, who's that? I literally didn't know, I had no recollection to who this character might have been, or if there was any, like, hints towards him prior to this. It completely slipped my mind that actually, if you go back to chapter 112, and it would have been very, very easy for me, immediately after I read the comment, to even do just a little bit of research to find out who this character might be. But if you go back to chapter 112, near the end of the chapter, Hermit actually mentions that when she's looking through the logs of basically their data from their previous trip with Ziggy that none of the four Shining Maidens actually remember, she mentions that in one of the logs they mention a Master Zenolith and that this was his home planet. So yeah, I really do feel like an idiot. If I literally had just done a little bit of research after reading that person's comment, I would have been able to figure out that, oh, this character is Master Zenolith, and what happened in this week's chapter probably wouldn't have surprised me as much. Although there is a little bit of a silver lining because of the fact that I forgot about the comment and didn't do any research on it after reading the person commenting on who this character was. I was completely shocked by the review at the end of the chapter, and it just blew my mind even more because I had no expectations of what this character could possibly end up doing. Since again, I didn't do any of my research, but doesn't excuse the fact that I was a complete idiot, and I want to thank the person who actually did comment on my last video because of the fact that you gave me the clue, you gave me the answer to who this character was ahead of time, and I'm just an idiot for not basically doing any research on it. Okay, so getting into chapter 125, we actually start the chapter off with a nice colored cover page in a different style than the illustrations we usually get for Hero for his cover pages. Usually those illustrations actually are kind of like a small, like one page, one panel story, but in this illustration we actually just get kind of like a volume cover, which I wouldn't be surprised and actually wouldn't be disappointed if this actually was the volume cover for the next upcoming volume of Eden Zero, because this looks sick as hell. I mean, we got Rebecca, Pino, and Happy all looking like they are in Mafia gear. Shiki, I'm not exactly sure what's going on with his look. I mean, it looks cool as hell, but definitely doesn't really fit the whole Mafia style that the Earth 3 have going on right now. But it still fits the color scheme of white and black that Hero has going on for this page. And man, I have said it a million times before, but Hiro Mashima is definitely my favorite manga artist going on right now. I actually do like the fact that we start the chapter off by focusing on the space crew, and personally I would have preferred if the entire chapter actually focused on them instead of switching back over to Planet Foresta, just because we've gotten so much action and development from that planet with the last chapter alone. I feel like we should take a break from that to kind of like slow things down a little bit and focus a little bit more on what's going on over in space. But anyway, we start the chapter off with them. We see that Sister is actually calling for Laguna to go to the satellite to check on Herman and Wise because she lost contact with them. We have Klein still freaking out and having a panic attack, so Jin is actually bringing her back to the ship. And Sister actually had, or actually no, it was Witch who sent Laguna to the satellite. Sister sent Moscow out to continue fighting the drones and basically protecting everyone. And then we come over to the satellite where fucking Wise finally redeems himself after chapter 1, I want to say 123 it was, where he completely dropped the ball and basically let Herman and himself get captured by this insane doctor. But anyway, he actually uses his Ether Gear ability, or actually uses his Arsenal suit combined with his Ether Gear ability to basically move his joints, because right now he's actually paralyzed and can't move on his own. But because of the fact that he's actually using it in this way, it's consuming a lot more ether, so he's going to actually end up running out of time with his Arsenal suit faster than he usually does. But like I said, he actually redeems himself by kind of knocking back the doctor and basically saving Hermit. She's still kind of rattled right now, but he is trying to calm her down, basically saying, hey, remember, we are here to stop that satellite. And it seems like it actually is working to basically make her regain her composure and basically refocus on what's going on right now instead of living into the past. It's still probably going to be traumatizing for her in the next few chapters dealing with this doctor, but hopefully she's actually able to get past it and actually move forward with the plan. And personally, because of the fact that we know that Wise has a short time span of how long he can actually be useful in the Arsenal suit, I prefer if we actually have him focus more on reprogramming and reworking the satellite, and actually have Hermit be the one to fight off against the doctor so that she can face her personal trauma, get past it, and grow as a character. And I'm also wondering how Laguna is going to end up factoring into all of this. I mean, personally, I don't see him being a big part of this fight. I'd prefer if he actually ends up showing up at the satellite after everything's already done and just gives them a ride home, although there's no real point to that because of the fact that their ship is still intact. Their ship didn't get destroyed or anything on, on arrival to the satellite. So really, he doesn't really serve a purpose here besides maybe if Herman gets a little overwhelmed or maybe Wise actually ends up running out of the time on his Arsenal suit and because he's still paralyzed, can't complete the job. So Laguna has to come in and basically find a way to either heal him or complete the job for him. I don't know. It's going to be interesting seeing how Laguna actually factors into this, especially since Wise has no trust for Laguna, Klein, or Jin. Now, I mean, like I said, I would have preferred if we actually stayed on the satellite and see this whole thing play out. But the reason why we actually cut over back to Planet Foresta is because after Wise actually knocks out the doctor or knocks him back, he gets angry, and in an attempt to stop Wise and Herman from stopping their plan of using the virus, he actually overcooks it and basically sends the command to all the robots on the planet to, instead of enslaving humans, to just completely eradicating them. So we cut over to Foresta to see the results of that, and basically we see that the robots are actually going on a tear and killing every single person they see. We even get the scene where Rebecca, Pino, and Happy are basically looking on at the onslaught from the bushes, and we find out that Rebecca was actually planning on pretending to be a pet again in order to kind of sneak past the robots, but since they're actually killing all humans now, that plan's kind of out the window. And we see Rebecca actually jump in and actually fight off against the robots because of the fact that they actually attempted to kill a little girl. So she walks in to save them. She gets a little bit overwhelmed, and then Pino actually jumps in and basically uses her EMP to deactivate all the robots in the area, including Happy. So now they're actually on the run again. And at first, when I was reading the scene, my first thought was, Rebecca, you now know the fact that you can actually go back in time and have tested it out. Why don't you go back in time a few seconds so you can save everyone using Pino's EMP, knowing that this is going to happen? But then I remember that she actually did overuse that ability in, I believe, the last chapter or the chapter before that. So considering the fact that this is still happening, probably within like a few minutes or like maybe a half hour at the most of when she did overuse that ability, she probably is still tired from it and can't use it again without actually suffering the side effects. So it would make sense that she wouldn't actually use her ability in this chapter to save the people that have already died. And I can imagine that once everything's all settled and done, because of the fact that Rebecca is such a kind-hearted person, when she's looking back at this moment and remembering all the people that died, she's going to be kicking herself and blaming herself for not being able to save them, even though she does have the ability to reverse time a few minutes. And had she not been playing around so much back when she was practicing how to use the ability, she possibly could have used it in this chapter to save people's lives instead of basically overusing it and causing side effects. So like I said, when Rebecca actually ends up looking back on this moment, she's going to learn from it and basically go forward using this ability sparingly and only in certain moments where it actually calls for it. And then we cut over to Shiki and Master Zenilith for the first time in the chapter, and we get this interesting dialogue from him after he uses his Ether Gear ability to basically lift or lighten the pain that Shiki feels right now. He doesn't actually heal his wounds, but he makes the pain lighter. And he actually gets some very interesting dialogue, and I want to actually get it right. Now, this is actually off of a fan translation, even though this video is going to be going up after the official chapter comes out on January the 12th. But based off the fan translation, this is what I'm making this video on. So from the fan translation, the dialogue that he makes is basically saying that true gravity transcends even concepts. It is the weight of the heart. It will sometimes allow you to make others' hearts fall inside you, or sometimes attract a young woman from the future. Its power is that great. Now, obviously, when he's talking about the young woman from the future, he's obviously talking about Rebecca. But when it comes to the other word that he said, basically the whole sentence about making hearts fall inside of you, I wonder what that piece of dialogue is actually referring to. Does he just mean that it's easy for Shiki because of the gravity Ether Gear or because of his connection to gravity that he's able to make friends? Because we have seen him very easily make friends with people who didn't really want to be his friends. Like, as soon as he met Rebecca, they instantly became friends, basically. Even though Wise had wanted nothing to do with the crew, really, and was only planning on using them, he very quickly became friends with them. Honestly, with the dialogue that he's spitting on this page, Master Zenilith is starting to sound a lot like a Kingdom Hearts character, which I am 100% down for because Kingdom Hearts is my all-time favorite video game franchise, so anything that even slightly resembles it, I'm definitely down for. And then after Shiki doesn't really understand what he's trying to tell him, Master Zenilith decides to give him a little demonstration of exactly how powerful and how dangerous gravity Ether Gear actually can be by using one attack where he stomps on the ground and uses an ability I think he called Gravity Center or Gravitation Center, something along those lines. And basically with this one move, he halts the movements of everyone, robot and human, on the planet and in the surrounding area in space. Because we actually even see the Eden Zero come crashing, well, not crashing down, but we actually see the Eden Zero actually be affected by this. Sister, Witch, they both been affected by it. They can't move. I think it affected the satellite as well, but I don't think we actually got a real panel seeing that. But considering the fact that they actually are in the same kind of space area, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually did affect the satellite as well. But basically everyone on the planet besides Shiki and Master Zenilith are paused from moving for a little while. But now that Master Zenilith is here, the person who taught Ziggy, does this mean that we're going to see him training Shiki going forward? I can actually imagine that him being on the Eden Zero crew, he's going to actually end up filling the role that Makarov did in Fairy Tail, where he was kind of like the grand master, the older sensei to the characters, and basically kind of taught them lessons along the way. I can imagine him if he actually ends up joining them, going along the same lines, where he's not really that active in any of the fights, but he is there to basically guide them and teach them and basically train Shiki on how to properly use his gravity ether gear, which actually could make him a bigger threat and actually put him on the same level as Ziggy and Shura when he actually ends up fighting them later on. Because, I mean, if we're being perfectly honest right now, if Shiki were to fight against either one of those characters right now as he currently is, even with how little we actually seen of their abilities so far in the series, I don't think he would stand a chance against either one of them and actually would end up dying as a result. So, it actually would benefit from him to learn from the person who actually taught Ziggy on how to properly use his abilities and actually level up his power. And speaking of power, we actually get to check back in with the fight between Justice and Elsie in this chapter, and despite the fact that the two of them stabbed each other through the stomach in the last chapter, a wound that would usually be fatal for any other character, they are still going at it in this chapter like nothing happened. And despite the fact that the two of them are fighting, they actually end up getting attacked by a bunch of their drones that are sent out to kill them, and even with the drones attacking them, they managed to destroy all the drones while still fighting against each other. And the last we actually see of the two of them is them both using Grand Chariot on one another. Now, we don't get to see the result of this fight because of the fact that we cut immediately back over to Master Zenolf and Shiki, but I can imagine that the two of them actually didn't really kill each other with that attack. They probably did heavy damage on each other. We're planning on continuing to fight, but because of Master Zenolf using his ether gear ability, they are more than likely paused from their fight and still on the ground, being affected by his gravity ether gear. And then once they get back up, they're probably going to be too damaged to continue to fight, and their subordinates are probably going to be the ones that actually come and pick them up, take them back to their ships, and then they're going to go their separate ways to fight again later on in the series. But anyway, guys, that is all that happened in this week's chapter. I cannot wait to see what actually comes of this next. Like, what is going to happen with Master Zenolf? Is he actually going to end up going with them on the E0 crew and becoming Shiki's teacher, teaching him how to actually properly use his ether gear abilities? Or are we actually just going to see him be a one-and-done character for this arc and possibly maybe show up in future arcs? And again, I said it in the last chapter, but I'm going to say it again. I want to see more of Elsie and Justice. I want to see more of their backstory. I want to see more of the struggle between the two characters. And I want to find out what Hiro has in store for these two characters and what he plans on doing for their story arc. But that's going to do it for this week's video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Comment down below your thoughts and theories, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.